Captain America was a good movie. Iron Man was a great movie. Iron Man 2. So, we're up to the fourth movie in our Avengers countdown. My review of each of the six Avenger movies. We're on now to Thor. So, how does Thor stack up? Thor is a surprising movie. I just finished watching it last night with my kids again, and it's funny here. First, just a little background on my history with the character of Thor. I don't really have one. I grew up in the 90s when Thor basically sucked. The character was transformed into a, a character that would basically at one point become Thunderstrike. He wasn't the real Thor. And wasn't a very interesting character. He was wisecracking, he was modern, uh, not the Thor that most people know. So I really never got into Thor. I never had any kind of connection to that character. And at the point where the Thor movie was about to come out, I was really not all that interested in it. It was after Iron Man 2 and the Edward Norton debacle and just Marvel Studios making one mistake after another. So I really had sort of given up. I thought, well, I'll go see Thor, but I had no real interest in it in the way that I had with the previous Marvel movies. And then I sat down in the theater and I saw it and was really surprised that it is as good as Iron Man. I know most of you will probably disagree with me. I think Thor is as good as Iron Man. Easily as good as Iron Man. Um, which again, I have no, it's not out of my, if there was one movie that I wanted to be as good as Iron Man, it was Captain America because that's a character that I have a lot of love for. Thor, I had no real vested interest in. So, basically, we'll break it down the way we always do. We'll start with Chris Hemsworth as Thor. He's got charisma. He's an asshole for most of the movie, and yet you like him. Uh, but unlike Tony Stark, you don't feel the same. You're not with him totally the whole way, like you are with Tony Stark. When the movie begins, Thor is a character that is not likable. He's not really, he's basically a dick. He's a spoiled brat, and when he's banished from Asgard by Anthony Hopkins, who plays his father Odin, you sort of go, yeah, he probably should be banished. He's not really worth the time that it would take to mold him into whatever kind of a king that he's going to need to be one day. But Hemsworth, at the same time, though he's playing a complete prick for most of the movie, you he's so badass, first of all, in all of the action sequences that you can't help but root for him in the way that you root for anybody who's just that badass. But at the same time, there is a vulnerability to Thor that, comes out more and more as the movie progresses, but is there from the beginning, and that is completely 100% due to Hemsworth. The other heroes in the movie uh, are sort of the weak point actually of the movie, and I don't mean that as an insult because they're all good. The Warriors 3 and Sif and Heimdall, they're all good, but they're just sort of wasted. They don't really get to do it. They're sort of the howling commandos of this movie. Um, they're You can see where maybe the movie maybe cut a lot out, and if you buy the Blu-ray, you see a lot of deleted scenes with these guys where they flesh out the characters a little bit more. But for the most part, they're wasted, and especially, Anthony Hopkins as Odin. It's a good supporting turn. Rene Russo as Thor's mother, though, barely gets a line. I think she gets like one, maybe two lines in the whole movie. She is completely wasted. I don't see why they couldn't have gotten any actress in the world to play this part. Uh, because, and again, a character that if you buy the Blu-ray, you'll see a lot of deleted scenes with her. Uh, to have an actress of Rene Russo's caliber and to just sort of waste her in this role was a big missed opportunity. But Kenneth Branagh makes up for it in other ways. You know, his direction, I was really surprised when they said Kenneth Branagh was going to direct Thor. But his direction is spot on, and he delivers something that at first I didn't appreciate it, but as I continue to watch the movie, I get more invested in it every time. And that's the love story between Thor and Natalie Portman as Jane Foster. And the thing that sells it, even more than Hemsworth, is Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman is just fucking adorable in this movie. I mean, she plays a character that I doubt there's a guy out there who wouldn't have wanted to date that character. Not just because she looks like Natalie Portman, but because this is just a really vulnerable, sweet, goofy girl. She's not played as sort of the sexy, uh, human character that seduces Thor. She is a goofball, and that's what sort of wins Thor's heart, and it wins ours too. I mean, every time I see it, her performance just really stands out to me. But not so much as the villain of the piece, uh, Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Easily, of the 6 Avengers movies, the best villain. Just easily. I mean, all the other villains, while memorable, are not anywhere near Hiddleston as Loki. And I will go one better than saying he's the best villain in any of the Avengers movies. Next to Heath Ledger as the Joker, Hiddleston's Loki is the best villain in any comic book movie ever. Ever. Better than Ian McKellen as Magneto? Better than Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor? Better than Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman? And the reason for it is he plays Loki in a way that you completely identify with him, and for most of the movie sympathize with him more than you do with Thor. Because everything he does, he's doing for the love of his father. He's doing because he feels like he's second best to his brother. He's doing because he really honestly believes, and rightfully so, that Thor is not the right person to rule Asgard. And there's an amazing scene at the end where he's about to square off with Thor, and he's trying to get Thor to fight him, and Thor won't. And Loki is sort of prodding at him, and he's trying to saying, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go after your girlfriend. And if you look, he's crying through that. He's not sort of smirking and like this evil bad guy who's going to do some terrible things. No, he's weeping as he does this. He doesn't want to do it. And that's what's amazing about that performance. He is the most vulnerable character, and in some ways the most relatable character in the movie. And should have been nominated for an Oscar, I might add. I think that performance deserved Best Supporting Actor consideration from the Academy Awards. Just an amazing villain turn. It's again, this is sort of like the Iron Man review. I don't know what I can say about this. There's no weak point in this movie for me, except for maybe the fact that they don't take full advantage of the supporting heroes. And even that, I mean, they do get their moments to shine. They each get an action beat. They each get a moment to sort of take on, the Warriors 3 and Sif take on the Destroyer, and you even get Agent Coulson coming in from the Iron Man movies and he gets a little bit of action. You get Hawkeye comes in, Jeremy Renner, for about 15 seconds. Another sort of wasted character. I mean, it was fun to have him in there, but it would have been a cooler moment if they had fleshed him out more in another movie, which again goes back to what I said in the Iron Man 2 review. That should have been a S.H.I.E.L.D. movie. That should have been the movie that played up Nick Fury, Black Widow, and Hawkeye and set them up for the Avengers movie. There's really not a lot to say about this movie. I got no criticism. The music is great. The action is there. There's a moment in the movie, spoiler alert here, where Thor basically is killed and sacrifices himself, and that's when he redeems himself and is able to get his hammer back and get his powers back. And it's one of these moments that movies try to do, where they set up an epic moment in a movie. And a lot of movies can't pull it off. You sort of watch it and you're like, maybe you've been a little bit bored. All right, come on, hurry up, just get to the fighting. The scene is one of the best scenes in any of the Avengers movies. It makes you just, your goose flesh for the entire scene. And the reactions of the people even watching, where there's this, again, adorable moment with Natalie Portman where it's the first moment where she realizes, oh my God, this really is Thor. He is who he says he is. And, his armor is reassembling back onto him and he's surrounded by lightning and everything. And she's watching and she just sort of tilts her head and goes, oh my God. And then he, fights the Destroyer, and it is amazing. I mean, it's just one of the best moments in a movie for the last few years. Really a get up and cheer kind of moment in the movies, and you don't get that very often anymore. There's not nothing else to say about Thor. I mean, it's really Captain America and Iron Man 2 had their problems. Iron Man was great. But Iron Man was really also carried by the performances. There wasn't a lot of action in the first Iron Man movie. Thor delivers the action, delivers the characters, delivers the performances. It's completely on the same level as the first Iron Man. And a lot of people criticized it and said, well, the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff feels forced in it. I don't feel the S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff felt forced at all. It felt forced in Iron Man 2. It does not feel forced in this. It feels completely natural in this, like it would be a part of the story, and it adds to the story. It's the moment where I got excited about Avengers again, after the sort of disappointment of Iron Man 2 and not casting Edward Norton as the Hulk again. This was the moment where I said, okay, the Avengers still has a shot. It might still be the movie that I hoped it would be. And, I think all the credit goes to Kenneth Branagh. And it's one of the reasons I'm not excited for Thor 2. I have no interest in Thor 2. Actually, I really don't have any interest in any of the Avengers movies beyond Avengers. But the reason I don't have an interest in Thor 2 is because Kenneth Branagh's not coming back to direct. And I think that he was the guy that made this movie, sold it. And this was the most difficult of all the Avengers movies to pull off. He's the least known character, Thor is, and he's sort of the one that stands out the most as being a little ridiculous. Why is the Norse god of thunder a superhero? And Kenneth Branagh completely sells it. This is a 10 all the way. So that's it for this Avengers review. We've got one more before the big review of the main movie itself. I will be back next month to review The Incredible Hulk.